I had 3 disc bulges hitting that like sciatic nerve. I can't move. I can't sleep. I'm so uncomfortable all day long. I loved running. And so when I went to the doctor and asked, what can I do to either like, help alleviate this pain or prevent this pain from coming back? They said, stop running. My mom has Alzheimer's and she's in the later stages. And so it starts to kind of affect your mobility. There's an aspect of caring for someone that is physically demanding. And so as her disease started progressing and my back started progressing as to be more painful, it became really difficult to be able to take care of her. And I tried acupuncture, I tried a chiropractor, I had gone to PT. The program really made such a difference and gave me results that none of those other interventions really helped with. By the end of the program, I was pain-free and I was like, okay, I'm going to try running again. Forever thankful for finding the Whealth program because it really just made such an impact in my life to be able to move and feel better and healthy and take care of my mom and do things I love again.
Alana, thank you so much for joining us for the Whealth podcast. I do want to start with something that you posted in our Facebook group, which I think was really impactful. So you said about a month ago, hey everyone, I want to share a little success story. I recently completed my first marathon without any back pain. A huge thanks to this program for helping me reach that goal. Started the program in February, finished in July, so about 6 months ago now. For years, you struggle with back pain from L4, L5, and S1 disc bulges, and doctors have told you that you shouldn't run anymore. I hope this can inspire anyone dealing with pain to know that recovery, progress, and being pain-free are possible. That's a dense one. We could talk about that for hours. First off, where was that marathon run? I mean, that looked cold, icy.
It was very cold. It was in northern Maine. It was a really small town called Millinocket. And it was about 9 degrees for the race.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, it was very cold.
Okay. So there's a few things I want to talk about with that post. Maybe first things first, you said that the program helped you do the marathon without pain, which was a goal of yours. How did the program help you achieve that goal?
Yeah, absolutely. So back probably at the beginning of last year, so the beginning of 2024, after struggling with having back pain and trying a couple different options and still not really figuring out how to alleviate my pain, I decided to give the program a try after seeing that there was success stories that sounded just like some of the pain that I was experiencing. And so it took me about 6 months to kind of get through the program. And so that put me in about July. And when I finished the program, I felt really good. I had started running again, which was something that I had loved doing before, and decided that it was always a goal of mine to run a marathon. I never really thought I could actually do it, but it was like one of those big bucket list goals that like if I felt healthy enough and the time was right that I would, give it a try. And so I finished the program and I started running again and not having back pain. I was like, I'm going to give this a go. And so started training for the marathon kind of shortly after that until like September and ran it in December. And so
wow. Okay. So,
really helped me get to the point where I had the confidence to feel like I could do it.
Sure. And so, going to, why did your doctor tell you, was it that you couldn't run or you shouldn't run or both? I mean, what were those words said?
It was, so I'd always been really active and I enjoy running, but I also enjoyed like strength training and playing sports and doing a whole variety of exercises. But running was really, it's something that just like mentally no other exercise like gets me to that point. Like it's where I can go for a run and think about everything and think about nothing and just
Right.
like it's good for my head to run, whereas some of the other exercises are great for my joints and my muscles and feeling strong. And so I loved running. And so when I was experiencing the back pain that I was experiencing and went to the doctor and asked like, hey, what can I do to either like help alleviate this pain or prevent this pain from coming back? Because early on it would be an onset of pain and then I would be fine. And then I would get another onset of pain and be fine. And so my doctor's appointment ended up being in a period where I was feeling healthy and not experiencing pain. And I had asked like, what can I do to prevent this pain? And they asked, oh, what do you do for exercise? And kind of just ended up being more of a like, oh, if running can be hard on your back and your joints, maybe you shouldn't do running. If it's causing you pain, maybe try different exercises. Don't, it's, I would lean away from doing running was the recommendation from the doctor. And in terms of like, how can I go about, you know, alleviating my pain? They said, stop running.
Right. Well, and how did that feel hearing that? Because you just shared how important running is for you mentally. I mean, how was that hearing those words?
Definitely hard, but I think also in the back of my mind, I wasn't like accepting that answer. I was like, okay, sure, like you're saying this, but like maybe, I just need to get myself healthy enough to get to running. And like, I always had the thought that if I could get myself to a point where I was healthy, then I could prevent the pain from coming back. And so, that's kind of how I left the appointment. I was like, okay, sure. They're saying not running. I'll stop running for like a couple weeks, a couple months. I'll get healthy and then I'll start running again. Because
Sure.
I never really thought running was causing my pain. It was just preventing me from healing.
Sure. Okay. Well, that's really cool that you were even in the space to kind of like block that thought or take it with a grain of salt, because obviously we have a lot of members that come in and what they have been told by so and so is absolute truth, and it's a big belief to challenge and be like, well, maybe I can run again. So that's really cool, at least that you knew like, hey, maybe right now I don't need to run, but if I get healthy I will get back to that. So you're you were diagnosed, what it was like a few disc bulges and then a tear. Is that correct?
Yep. So
Okay.
it took me a long road to even get to an MRI. Not sure if other, members
Hmm.
experience that, but it's kind of like a few hoops to jump through to even get to figure out what the issue is. And so for a lot of the time, you're kind of like in the dark. You're like, I have back pain, and thanks to Google or whatever, I'm trying to figure out what it is. So it took me like a long time to even figure out what my pain was. And then once I figured out that, or once I had the MRI results that showed I had 3 disc bulges, and the one closest to L5 was like torn. And so that was where some of like the fluid was like, I'm not sure of all of the like medical technical terms,
Sure.
but that's what was caused. That one was the most severe that was causing the pain in my back. And it started in my back, and then it started going down my leg. And so hitting that like sciatic nerve.
Yeah.
So
Not
right
a
there.
fun feeling. I know that firsthand. Did you have the pain go all the way down to the foot, the calf? What do you remember with that? Because I guess that was about probably a year ago. You were really in the thick of it, right? Because you started,
Mm-hmm.
I remember, I think you bought the program last January.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, yeah, I had originally injured the first time I remember my back hurting was back in 2018. And it happened in just a silly way where I jumped and slipped and fell on my back. And I was like, it hurts, but give it a couple weeks and I was back to normal. And then throughout the course of like the last few years, it would come back again. And I usually just attributed it to some sort of like overuse injury. Maybe I was working out too many days without really taking a proper rest day, or not, you know, properly warming up or something. I just kind of attributed it to like an acute situation, and next time I'll just do it differently. But probably back in 2023 was the first time that I experienced it, and then it didn't go away after the like 2 weeks or so. It just stayed
Uh,
and stayed for months, and that's when I was like, I can't do anything. I can't move. I can't sleep. I'm so uncomfortable all day long. Let me figure out really what's going on here. I tried acupuncture. I tried a chiropractor. I had, gone to PT, did a bunch of different options. And then after still experiencing the pain at the end of that year, so beginning of 2024, I found the program, and the program was really, made such a difference and gave me results that none of those other interventions really helped with.
well, first off, I'm super happy to hear that, because obviously that's what we want. a thought process with me having people on the podcast is like, how do you actually just kind of explain this experience that is told over and over again? Hey, it started with one back flare up or shoulder flare up or whatever, and it was acute. And then maybe I went to the chiropractor, I did acupuncture, I did these things, and maybe they kind of kept it at bay. And then one time it was different and the pain didn't go away. And then a lot of people are left to think that maybe they're not going to heal again or they're never going to get better because they're like, hey, I've tried 10 different things. And then we're like, well, you should try the Whealth program. And they're just like, well, how is that any different? So like, what was your experience with trying a bunch of things and then trying another thing, which just happened to be our program? I mean, how did you kind of work through that hurdle, or was there even a hurdle?
I think my like belief in the foundation of what the Whealth program is and like how the program is designed and how you're really giving your body what it needs to recover on its own, and you're not adding these like, I really was hesitant. I didn't want to do any type of intervention. I was really even hesitant to take like medication or painkillers, or so like the idea of doing like an injection or doing some sort of surgery or doing something that was like way more invasive and felt like it might have been like a band-aid or like something that wasn't really addressing the root of the problem. I was more hesitant with that. Whereas the Whealth program really seemed like it was had a foundation of healing your body and getting to kind of that root that those prior interventions, I one didn't feel like I was either attacking the root of the problem, or two, when I was talking to like the medical professionals or the people that were in those roles, felt like I was really being heard when I was saying like, oh, I want to prevent this from coming back in the future, and what can I do like to understand what's happening. And a lot of times it was just kind of, I felt a little bit more dismissed in those settings.
Yeah, just don't run. Just don't
Yeah.
lift. Just don't do XYZ, which that was my experience as well. Kind of what I was told. I was like, all right, well, how do I move beyond 5 I had a disc herniation, and I was like, how do I move beyond like your piece of paper that's giving me 5 or 10 exercises and telling me to ice my back 20 minutes a day and come in for decompression therapy and massage? Like, how do I move beyond that? How do I get back to feeling good and lifting? And it was just like, I don't know, like here's our piece of paper or whatever, and just kind of avoidance as well. So where do you feel like you got, sounds like you connected with our ideology? I mean, where did you kind of get that belief system from? Because some people are not, I would say, root cause oriented. They are very medically oriented. Like my disc herniation or my discs need like injections, and they need medication. They need all of these treatments. Like that's what they need, or that's what they think they need.
Yeah, I'm not too sure if I have like a really interesting point of where I,
Yeah.
decided that I felt like this is my belief, but I think I guess just growing up and being active, um and seeing the benefits of like living an active healthy lifestyle, and especially, or like, nutrition and like all of those components that kind of go into that are um aspects that like really show that like the body is capable of doing these things, and we're meant to be able to heal ourselves and be healthy if you're treating it well. And so I think I just held on to that and my interest in that area, and to like look to find answers in that area, to kind of what drew me more toward that like ideology and
Yeah,
wealth, and
that's awesome.
uh instead of what the maybe less on like the technical medical intervention, more on just kind of
Mm-hmm.
like a holistic approach.
Okay. So it's safe to say you weren't like too scared or too fearful or too anxious when the doctor was like, you shouldn't run again or that sort of thing. You didn't leave with that much, let's just say, emotional baggage over that.
um I think I was definitely like upset, but I don't think it like put a block to my mindset of like I can't do this anymore. I think I was just like, well, you know, that's hard to hear,
Sure.
um
Yeah.
but
Well,
didn't let me get too down.
okay. Well, I'm happy to hear that. I hope more people can kind of start to think like that, or if people are thinking like that, I think that's a really positive way to think. So, and then another thing, Alana, that I was just so awesome. I remember you sent an email last January, and I think I was asking you about your goals for the program. And you had mentioned, like, hey, I want to feel better for what we talked about, two disc bulges and a tear and chronic pain and sciatica, and you don't want to live your life like that. But what was the other key piece that you were talking about, why you needed to or wanted to get better?
Yeah, so taking care of my mom has Alzheimer's and she's in the later stages. And so once you're in the later stages, it starts to kind of affect your mobility, and you need a lot of help with kind of like your daily tasks. Sometimes it can be difficult to walk, or she needs help bathing or transferring from a chair to a bed or into a car. So there's an aspect of caring for someone that is physically demanding. And so as her disease started progressing, and my back started progressing as to be more painful, it became really difficult to be able to take care of her and be able to, do everything I needed to do to take care of her. And my personal, being able to run and being able to be active was like took a backseat. I was like, I need to be healthy, first and foremost to be able to take care of my mom. Because if I can't, then she doesn't have the ability to do it on her own. And so that's a huge motivation for me every day. It's still a huge motivation for me. And truly that's also why I run. The marathon that I did was a fundraiser for the Alzheimer's Association. I'm signed up to run the Boston Marathon, which will be a fundraiser for the Alzheimer's Association. And so my mom is a huge inspiration for me for running, but she's also a huge inspiration for me to be healthy and to take care of myself, so that I can take care of her. And so it's a huge component of why I also joined the program to, make sure that I can still be healthy and do everything I need to do.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think it's interesting because we'll have parents, I'll talk to parents on the phone who might want to join the program. And, you'll kind of hear the sentiment like people have stuff going on in their life, but they really need to make a change. They need to get healthier. And they're like, oh, I got to take care of my kids, or I got to do this, or I got to do that. So I don't know if I can set aside 30 minutes for myself because that's selfish. And what I've always thought is like, by taking care of yourself first and foremost, it's actually the least selfish thing you can do. Granted, there becomes a point in your life where it's like, hey, I'm neglecting my kids or my family because I'm down in the gym for 8 hours a day. Like maybe, yeah, we need to change some of those priorities. But if we're talking about doing a pretty minimal amount of work to take care of yourself so you can take care of someone else, I personally think like it's okay to be selfish. I wouldn't even call it that, but it's also kind of like we're on airplanes. If you lose oxygen pressure, they say put your mask on before you put it on your kid or someone else. Like you need to be able to take care of yourself to take care of someone else. So it sounds like you've had like personal goals, but also goals to be healthy for your mom. It seems like they just kind of have all intertwined, huh?
Yeah, yeah, everything kind of is all connected, but I completely agree with that. There's like a saying that like to be able to take care of others, like you need to take care of yourself first, and
Mm-hmm.
I completely agree with that. And I think like the it's really not that much time to set aside to take care of yourself, and in the long run, it'll do you more good than if you are neglecting to take care of yourself. And so, um, and like with the program, what made it so accessible is that I could do it at home. I didn't need to go to a gym. I, had some of the equipment in my basement, and I could, you know, take the time to just do it quickly and not have to feel like I'm, taking up too much time, or feel guilty that I'm taking time at all.
Right. Well, yeah, speaking of time, I think that's a good point. I mean, you started the program in Feb, you finished in July. What do you remember some of those timelines of like, oh, I felt better at this time, or let's just try to paint the picture of what those 5 months look like, how much time each day, and what were some of those things you noticed along the way?
Yeah, so I started the program, and I think I started with the mindset of like, oh, I'm gonna do a session every day. I'll be done with this in 8 weeks. Like I won't miss I won't miss a session. Like I'll be good to go in 8 weeks. But like life happens and the first week went and I didn't get all, didn't do one every day. And so I was like, okay, I need to like reset my expectations that like I'm just going to keep going at like the pace that like whatever that looks like. If it's I get 2 done a week, then that's okay. But the next week I can get 3 or 4, that's fine, and just kind of roll with it. And so I remember very early on, like telling myself that. And when I had first started, it was like really difficult to do a lot of the movements. Like walking was, slow and gingerly, and like, I looked like I was walking very funny for a few weeks, and then slowly I was able to get that back. And then same with kind of like the bending over and like the like putting my sock on, which
Oh
like
my
is
gosh.
just such an easy like task that you don't even think about. But like when depending on the type of pain that you have, if you have that back pain, like putting a sock on was like so hard. And so like I remember like a few weeks go by and like I am starting to see the progress happen. Um and yeah, it probably took like maybe I got to like halfway through, so maybe about like 2 months where I was like, okay, is like I'm still like experiencing pain. It's not like it's gone completely, but I'm like noticing progress. I'm like, let me just not give up. Let's just stick through it. And then by the end of the program, I was pain free, and I was like, okay, I'm going to try running again, and started off very slowly with that. And still kept a lot of like the movements from the program as like part of what I would do prior to a run or post run, just to like make sure that I was still incorporating a lot of those things. And I still do today too. But yeah, it wasn't as quick as I, started off day one thinking it was going to be.
Sure.
But
Sure.
I'm really glad that like I went at my own pace through it,
Hmm.
and didn't put too much pressure to have it all completed.
Well, I feel like I don't know what that's like to take care of a parent with Alzheimer's, right? That's a lot on you. Um, did you feel like because you were in a vulnerable state and you needed to get better to take care of your mom, I heard you mention earlier that gave you motivation, which, typically you're associating a very positive feeling of like, I need to do this. This is a good sense. But did you feel like there was pressure as well, or anxiety or fear in like, well, what if I don't get better? And then my mom has to, not have someone to take care of her?
Yeah, absolutely. My dad is also like very involved in taking care of my mom, and he is, also, older, and his mobility is limited too. And so part of me wants to be able to take on more of the physical aspects that like he can't get down on the floor or like bend over and pick her up. Like I'm a little bit younger, and I'm stronger, and I can definitely do that. And so part of me had some anxiety of like if I can't do this, is like more falling onto my dad. And like, he's is it he's, complaining of aches and pains too. And so it's, trying to balance that. And then if there's like a point that, me and my dad both can't do it, then there's, how do we navigate figuring out kind of, who can take care of my mom, and like what that looks like. And um, there might come a point where we have to, you know, lean to that next step. But I think where we were within like the last year or two, we really wanted to keep her at home as long as possible and do as much as me and my dad could do as possible, without, you know, putting too much, extra resources into taking care of her. So yeah, so there's definitely anxiety and like that, like, okay, I want to be able to do the best I can, so that
Hmm.
it doesn't fall on other shoulders or add more stress in other areas.
Yeah. So, I remember one of your Facebook posts as well was maybe from like the first or second week, and you had just posted some of the module on movements. You were working on just a slight hip hinge, which if you have back pain or sciatica, that can be difficult. And we kind of go through those key points on how to do that. But I remember you said like, I didn't want to do the workout, but I got it done. And I'm proud of myself. I'm happy. What were so you did the program in 5 months. Some members do it in 2 months, but clearly you found a good time pace that worked for you. In the meantime, I mean, were there any other kind of pressures or stressors that prohibited you from doing it every day aside from taking care of your mom, or did you have any other kind of personal things going on, or what else was kind of creating pressure?
Yeah, I think it's just like the, stress of life and trying to balance everything
Mm-hmm.
and also kind of that. So I like work a 9 to 5 corporate job, which can have its own stress. And then,
Sure.
taking care of my mom can feel like a full-time job. And I, always like to kind of have, something on the side, whether it's like a side hustle or some type of like hobby or something, and then balancing like social relationships too. And so I think I was also in a crossroads of like what my gym routine looked like and where I was going, and I was had to really step back and be like, I can't be going, to the gym, lifting every day, and also running and doing these workouts. And it definitely, when I started doing the program, I was in a point of my life where I was also trying to like kind of realign and figure out how to balance everything else. Things were like
Mm-hmm.
changing. And so I think it definitely was a challenge to sometimes get the workouts in, just because I felt like I was, when I was healthy, I'm such a creature of habit. Like
Right.
I love my routine. I feel like I can be really consistent, but when you're in pain, that like idea of like, you know, not having that routine that you had when you were healthy is like, you're like, I'm failing. I'm not doing as much as I could be doing, or I wasn't doing that before. And so when I was, going through the program, I think there was just a lot going on, trying to figure out how to balance, trying to figure out, what my new routine needs to look like, because that old one is no longer feasible, and how I
Mm-hmm.
can, show up in all those areas. So,
Yeah, I wouldn't say some people, I mean, I don't want to say it's miraculous, but some people are like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to do the wealth program every day. Like it gives me so much hope and so much structure. And I mean, for me personally, when I did the program, when I was going through rehab, I mean, I was probably like 5, 6 days a week, but it wasn't like I was so excited to do it every day. I really wanted to get back to doing other things, but I think most people probably don't love the idea of doing like a rehab kind of mobility program. It tends to be like more of a necessity. And then I think it's about trying to figure out how to like create a mindset around being as excited or whatever as possible. And there's kind of limits to that. Did you have any, it sounds like, I guess if I'm doing the math right, you probably did about 3 days a week of Limitless, which is how you would have finished in about 5 months because there's 56 workouts. Do you have any tips for people who are going through kind of chronic pain and that struggle of pressure on like how to set aside some time for yourself, or potentially members who are doing the program? Because you're not the first or last person that, takes 4, 5, 6 months to do the program rather than finish in 2 months, which would be every day, which most of our members don't do.
yeah. A tip, something that works for me is I'm very visual, and so if I can see that I'm like making progress and like checking off boxes, that is helpful for me. And so what I would do is like create kind of like a, either it could be like on a calendar where you're like checking off the days and you can see that, like, or put an X through the days. And I had like a Excel spreadsheet where I could just like check, like, this is my week, I'm checking off the days, and where I could see that, that was something that like helped me. And so I think anytime you also like write something down, I think for some reason it just makes you more accountable to it, or you've like put pen to paper and like you've
Yeah.
thought through it. Whereas like if you don't write it down, or you think, oh, my week, I'm going to do this for the week, and just have the thought and don't like materialize it in some way, it's easier to kind of just let the thought go. And so a tip would definitely be like write it down, or put it on a calendar, or like schedule, like visually have the time to set aside, or seeing it. I think that's definitely a tip that helped me.
Yeah, it's funny. It seems so simple, but I mean, a lot of the habit creation, a lot of things I think are simple. It doesn't mean that they're easy. And I'm the same way. I mean, I have my pen with me right here. Like I was writing down questions before, and I'll like cross them out after I ask them. And I still do that. Like if I'm trying to do a new habit, like one of the habits I did last year, I guess 2 years ago, is like I want to start taking cold showers every day. So I had a piece of paper in my bathroom, and I literally, after I'd get out of the shower, I'd just mark one, one, one. And I was like, that alone just helped me, stay accountable, which it's so simple. It's not earth shattering, but it's like, are you actually going to do that? Like the application of finding that thing that works for you to help you stay accountable is what people need to do. Cause you're right. If you're not writing anything down, whether it be like fitness or nutrition or rehab or any sort of goals, you might just be like, I'm making no progress. But then if you can look back on, a piece of paper, it's like, no, I've done 7 workouts in 2 weeks or whatever. At least there's that perceived feeling of progress. And then that can be motivating and and kind of turn into a good transformational energy that keeps you motivated throughout. Because like it took you 5 months to do the program. 5 months can be very daunting if you think about, oh my gosh, I have 5 months to do something. But the way that you try to make these things less daunting is just bite-sized pieces.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then if you really boil it down, like 3 workouts a week, wealth. So what did let's just say 3 times a week for you for doing the Limitless program? How much time would that be per day? Because I know everyone's a little different.
Um, 30 minutes to like 40 minutes maybe.
Oh, okay.
I would when I think I'm pretty sure I did them Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I would like get up in the morning and set aside some time to do them. Once I kind of like made my way through and was like feeling good, I started kind of adding on a little bit more. Like I would start with the Wealth program and then maybe I would do like a 10-minute like core or like Pilates type of thing because I was like feeling good and I like wanted to add on a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it really wasn't like it's not like hours or like didn't really
No.
feel like yeah. And before I go to the gym and I would be happy there for if I was there like almost 2 hours. I was, putting in a lot of time and it's
Right.
nice when you can like do something and be efficient and not need to, be spending too much time on it.
Definitely. So trying to like kind of connect potentially why doctors were saying like don't run, don't do this, because we hear this all the time. I know you were kind of told like don't run. We have members all the time like don't lift, don't do Pilates, don't do yoga. Pretty much a lot of don'ts with very little do's and kind of instruction on how to get back from like where you're at, which is not feeling great in pain, to feeling good. What were, as you were going through the program, I mean, what did you learn in the program, like, let's just say mechanically speaking, or with your body that actually helped you reduce pain and then actually get out of pain?
Yeah, I think going through the program, I and also like reading some of the modules or listening into some of the calls or kind of like some of the stuff around mindset, really helped kind of solidify like a confidence in my body that like, you know, it's so easy to doubt and just be like, oh, I can't do this. But like slowly going through and just like reinforcing that like if I'm in pain, I can kind of like separate that a little bit, have some confidence in that like my body can be strong and do these things. And even if like day to day it doesn't feel like it's different, that like, kind of trusting that the process that like over time or that things can kind of ebb and flow. I think I think kind of like building that into the mindset and like leaning on some of those resources when I was doubting, today or yesterday, it doesn't feel any different, but like
Right.
looking at some of those resources that talk about mindset or like the confidence around your body and how big a factor that is, I think those are really helpful.
Yeah, progress is so tough day to day, right? I mean, it's kind of like if you're just looking at yourself in the mirror every day, you can be like, I'm not, if your goal is
Yeah.
aesthetics, you're like, I'm not making any progress. And then you need to sometimes look back like 3, 6 months, be like, whoa, so it's very difficult to track that. But that is where having those potential light bulb moments, or like one day sometimes, whether that be in the gym, you PR and you're like, wow, like I feel like I made progress. But until those things happen, or with pain, for instance, for our program, which is why a lot of people join, like, oh, I started the program and like I didn't realize, but 2 weeks later, I did the same action that I did 2 weeks ago with half the amount of pain. Those moments throughout the process can be so transformative because it reinforces like, hey, the process I'm on and doing is working. But I guess it's like, how do you kind of plan between those, and just stick with it? Did you have any specific you know points along the way that were transformational, or you're like, wow, I am making progress?
Yeah, I don't remember how far I was into the program, but I can remember looking because I started off taking more videos of kind of
Hmm.
myself just to like form check and stuff, and seeing the like range of motion that I like had that like first time I like ever took a video. And I remember kind of going further into the program and doing like another video and then looking at them, and I was like, oh wow, I actually am like I have more range of motion, or like my face doesn't look like it's like trying to concentrate so hard on like, what I was going through. I looked more relaxed, I guess, and I had a little bit more I was able to do a move that like looked like the form was, you know, easier and
Sure.
flowing better and stuff. So I would definitely say that I think like some of the early videos, I kind of wish I took more toward the end. But I kind of fell off on, I was like, oh, I'm just gonna, once I kind of got in the groove of the program, like a lot of the moves are like, oh, you're doing these again. Like I don't need to keep videoing, but I kind of wish I did, just because I think that's a nice
Sure.
way to see that and to be able to check and not yourself.
Yeah, reinforce that progress. And that's kind of a balance as well with our members who join the program. It's like, well, do I have to post videos? It takes a few minutes to record myself, throw it on Facebook, get coaching. And there's a balance. Some of our members use the Facebook every single day and are posting and getting coaching. And then, it probably wouldn't surprise you, but I mean, we have members who never join the Facebook group and go all the way through on their own without any videoing. I get that though too. Sometimes you're just like, I don't really want to pull out my phone. I just want to do the workout. And I think the more experience you get, I mean, I'll still record myself to this day, like a few times a week on specific things, and I'll pick stuff up. And I don't want to say that like if I didn't record myself more, I wouldn't be getting better. I probably would, but also I think the more you kind of start to learn about your body and body awareness, you have a way better sense of like how I'm moving. Another way to do it too, if you're going through the program, I mean, did you set up a mirror as well? Would you sometimes kind of just check in the mirror?
Yeah, I have like a mirror that I could check in, and then at one point I was also doing the program that there was a gym that had like a good amount of mirrors, and found that really helpful too.
Sure.
You could get like both sides.
Okay. Okay. Um, Going back to that other, the Facebook post that we shared at the beginning, how you shared your diagnosis, and you shared that doctors were saying that, hey, probably shouldn't, and probably shouldn't run, and then you did the marathon pain free. And I think the last thing was really interesting. You were just saying that you were hoping that your story would be inspiring to others to know that like a pain-free journey rehab process is possible. I mean, why do you feel compelled to share that part of the process, that you want other people to know that that is possible?
Yeah, I think because people that have shared their success stories, I find that to be helpful. And um like when I first started experiencing this pain, like not a lot of my friends or like close people that like maybe they had experienced back pain, but I was like trying to explain what was going on, and I
Hmm.
didn't really have anyone be like, "Oh yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. Like this is me too. Like this is what I did." Um like just nothing really matched up to like feel like it was a relatable situation. And so in search of seeing the program or seeing people that have shared their, own what they were experiencing and then how that helped them was something that I found really helpful. And so I just wanted to give back and, in a way that hopefully could help other people if they're in a similar situation. And
Yeah. Yeah, don't underestimate that too. If you're listening to the program and you're a member as well, or if you're not even part of the wealth community and you've done something cool that potentially there's fear, anxiety, or doubt around, and other people have said that you can't do, I think sharing that is so impactful. I can't even tell you how many times we've had just members who just are in the Facebook group, and they're just like, hey, I was a fly on the wall, and I was just encouraged reading other people's posts, and I didn't even acknowledge to that person, hey, Alana, thank you for sharing that. But like, you have plenty of people who saw that, who have taken inspiration, and it might have just been enough for them to put in one more workout or one more workout or one more workout for them to get to that final light bulb moment when like they don't just have to have like faith or hope or trust in the process because they actually know it's working. And I think that's what can be difficult. You know, some people feel like the process is working in a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And then for some people, it can take a few months to really feel like, okay, finally, like I can see I'm on the right path. So thank you for sharing that. I mean, and you know, I'm out of the pain cycle by 7 years. I haven't had sciatica, but like it is still so cool for me to read stories like that. Because in a way, it's just like I feel like I had a very, very similar experience to you. And also, I like the fact that you ran a marathon. I just ran a marathon last year. No, last year I did a half marathon. The year before I did a marathon, and like there was no way at the time when I had sciatica and I couldn't put on my shoes, I would have ever thought I would be doing that because the pain was so intense. And then I remember, you know, 3 months into my process, I was like, wow, I just ran a 5K on Thanksgiving without pain. You know, and then even starting the marathon process, not in pain, I was like, how am I going to run 26 miles? You know, and then you're like, well, you just stack it, stack it, stack it. So, you know, there's so many lessons from rehab or the process that can be applied to really anything. How was your marathon process, you know, when you got pain free in July? How was that process kind of building up? Like, what did you do for the marathon?
Yeah. I mean, like the biggest thing in the back of my mind throughout training was like, don't re-injure your back. Like that's like
Be smart.
priority number one. I'm like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't care how slow I go. I don't care if like I need to stop, take breaks. Like I don't like I prior to hurting my back, I was all about like, let me push my pace. Like let's do speed work. Like let's really like have fun. And this marathon, my mindset was very much like, don't injure yourself. I also my like big number one A+ goal is Boston Marathon. And so this marathon was really
Mm-hmm.
uh like let's see if we can do it. And like that'll for sure be like, oh, I can then I'm ready for Boston.
Right.
So even throughout this whole process, like the marathon was in December and leading up to it, each week kind of doing like the longest run I had ever done before, you know, when it's 16 miles and then 18 miles and 20 something miles. And so I always told myself, I'm like, you have permission if your back is bothering you, or if you feel like for some reason, like this is pushing it too far and you're going to compromise that like Boston goal. Like, cause I've felt like I'd made so much progress with the program and I'd spent months trying to heal my back. I'm like, I don't want to jeopardize that like long-term goal.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, it would be really great to complete this marathon. And throughout the training process, I was so thankful that my back it felt good and I wasn't experiencing pain, and I was taking like a very conservative approach to my training, but I could keep checking in with myself and saying like, oh, I feel good, like my back is feeling good, like I can do this. And so um the day of like the marathon, I was like, I'm not worried about my back, like I think
Right.
I'll be good. Like, and going through that whole race, like there was points where I wanted to quit, but it was more because I was like, I can't feel my fingers, and it's like
Yeah.
I'm ready to be done running at this point. And my back was never like anything that like popped up as like, oh, my back hurts, maybe I should stop running. It was so I think yeah, it was definitely on my mind, at the forefront of my mind for all of my marathon training, but it was so nice to like not have to experience, you know,
Right.
needing to stop my training at all for it.
Right. Yeah. You know, and I guess maybe we have to make a caveat to your Facebook post when you said you ran a marathon pain free. Maybe it was pretty much pain free except for the 9-degree wind chill and fingers breaking off. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my
No,
gosh.
there was a little bit of like,
For sure.
I think that comes with, the elements.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I think it's supposed to be tough. And I think, you know, I think we all get what you're saying. Like, oh my gosh, I'm not limited by back pain. Like, I don't know. Most people who do a marathon, like there is pain involved, but I
Yeah,
think this is where like just understanding your body through something like our program or a process similar is really important, because I think so many people do think stuff is supposed to be so much tougher than it needs to, in the sense where they're like, well, I'm just getting older, so like my joints are supposed to hurt, and like my knees are supposed to feel like crap when I run, and my back is supposed to feel like this because it's just part of the process. And of course, inherently there is part of, pain is really, it is part of the human existence. But also on the other side, like a lot of the types of pain that people are dealing with, joint pain, muscle pain, disc stuff, um, I don't want to say it shouldn't be part of the process, because I think all of these things are supposed to happen and you can, work through them. But also, like, I don't think people need to be on their 10th back surgery or 10th injection or be going to the chiropractor for 20 years because like they just haven't put in some time to learn their body as well. But yeah, I mean, a lot of good kind of lessons there as well. And it sounds like that, you were patient through the marathon process, which is ultimately, that's a good way to go about it and just work. Are you going to start to train a little bit harder for Boston, or what's your mindset moving forward now that you've successfully done one and showed yourself that you can?
Yeah, so starting that like ramping up that training again, and I think I am gonna set the goal to see if I can beat the time that I had when I ran the first one.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, that so I'll have some fun trying to like push
Yeah.
a little bit. But again, it's just like this race, it feels like it's such a awesome thing to be a part of, and I'm really excited to just be a part of it. And so
Yeah.
if I can beat that time that I have in my mind, I'll be really happy. But I think just being out there and finishing it and running it is also like amazing. So that's the goal.
Definitely. Yeah. Another thing that you posted a picture of, I think it was in Facebook. Here, let me just show this really quickly, and then let's see. So this was in July. You said you finished up the program a few weeks ago, went at your own pace, happy with the results. You can now lift your mom who has dementia in and out of the cars, chairs, and her bed, totally pain free. I love this picture as well. You've been able to get back into hiking, golfing, running. This was, something I did want to talk about. You were asking about, after finishing the program, are there any recommendations for maintenance going forward beyond, the program? How have you kind of transferred from finishing the program to now like making your own lifestyle what is best for you, Alana? Like what
Yeah.
what what did you kind of learn for maintenance that your body really needs or you're loving or
Yeah, so there was definitely some like exercises and movements that I was like, this feels really good. I'm just gonna keep going with these. And so like those are part of like either my running warm-ups or just like I'm, gonna do a workout and I'm gonna start with the some of I would call them my favorite moves from the
mm-hmm.
program. Just ones that I really felt um like the hip hinges or like 90-90, like those ones, like just
Yeah.
opening up that area and kind of like the cues with those movements I've just like kept with me in my programming.
Mm-hmm.
Like right after that I started going into marathon training and wanted to incorporate some strength training while also running. And so 2 days a week of like lifting, but not trying to go crazy PRs or anything, just lifting to be able to like keep the strength training.
Right.
Is kind of what I've decided is it feels like a good maintenance, at least while running.
Yeah.
I think, going forward, I'll keep a lot of the movements that I've found from Whealth, and I, can revisit any of the exercises and program like anytime I want. And so I think that's definitely something that, I will like keep and always have like part of my routine. And not really sure what I'm going to set for a goal after running, but I think it will be
Right.
less running and more into some strength training and stuff. And so I'm excited to see if I can maybe start working my way back up into doing some of those like stronger lifts and stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah, because you kind of started with I saw we were talking about this, but you had a cool or still do, maybe not as active anymore, but you had a cool health and fitness Instagram that you were kind of doing for a while. And I noticed a lot of nutrition content on there, and then also was there some strength training stuff on there as well? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So prior to like really injuring my back, that was definitely like a passion project and really enjoyed just, learning about fitness, like just for myself, but then also like did a little bit on the side of just like coaching others and sharing what I know, and like just family and friends that are like, oh, like
Hmm.
how can I be healthier, or like, what can you help me, create a little workout, or a meal prep or something like that.
Right.
So yeah, so that's right now it's not as active, but definitely something that's just like a passion project of mine, and I like enjoy doing it. So maybe someday I'll kind of get back to being more active on it, or more engaged. But yeah, it's still there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, so did you kind of at the time did you abandon that or move forward? Was that still a side thing while you were working, or were you kind of trying to push that full time and then you went to a 9 to 5 job?
No, it's always just been on the side.
Cool.
I think with the like progression of like the care that my mom needs, and then also um like having, my back being injured, and it took itself as like a backseat, and my plate
Hmm.
felt like really full, and it was just the thing that made the most sense to put on the side.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, and going back to taking care of your mom and whatnot, I know that's a really big priority. I'm very grateful that our program was able to help you kind of find your way and get back and be able to take care of her. In that post, you're talking about how you're able to move her from the cars and chairs and whatnot in the bed, totally pain free. Was that all stuff like when you were injured, were you kind of pushing that off to your dad and like, hey, dad, can you move mom? Or were you doing it just with pain, or what did that look like? Did you ever have to stop that stuff?
It looked like a lot of doing it through pain, like
Yeah, just
um
necessity, right?
yeah, and or yeah, my me and my dad would kind of like tag team on stuff, and also like kind of around our house we have, my dad jokes that we have more bars and grab things in our house like than, a jail cell. Like there's just bars everywhere, because like
Right,
we need like the strength to like hold on to something, or we have like a stair lift, or like a the bed, like, you know after a couple weeks of like trying to pick her up out of like a normal bed that was, only a few
right.
feet off the ground, we got, a bed that adjusts. So we've kind of like added things around our house to hopefully alleviate some of the you know physical aspects. But
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of the time, like if I was in pain and needed to, move her, it was just like, okay, like suck it up and pull her to
Just
where she needs to go, and then, once she's all set, then just take a second, go in the other room, and be like, you know
right.
let off a little bit of the steam, to be like, that hurt.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm happy you don't have to deal with that. We chatted about your marathon and your fitness stuff coming back now that you're pain free, and then being able to take care of your mom, which is obviously really important. Are there any other aspects of your life that you've noticed have changed or improved a lot since then? It's a lot of fitness, taking care of your mom. Like anything else?
Um, just like hobbies and activities that I love, that like I can just do and not have to worry about it. I love golfing, and that's something that like, when my back was hurting and I had to go out and golf, like bending down to pick up the ball, like
Yeah.
when it was like I needed to like pick it up, from the cup, or, place it on the tee, was like painful, let alone like swinging the club and like doing that movement. So like getting that, back is great. And then I also really enjoy hiking and doing some backpacking trips where you're carrying like a backpack that has like, 20, 30. I don't carry a 40-pound pack, but my boyfriend will carry the 40-pound pack, and it's heavy, and it's like on your
Right.
back, and like you're, walking miles, or up, hiking up something. And so that's something that also is like, you want to make sure that you aren't going to be out, in the woods, and now I'm in like debilitating back pain, and like I
Yeah.
can't carry this stuff out. So I think just in general, getting back to things that I really enjoy and love, and not having to worry about the pain, um, was another benefit of the
Yeah.
program.
Yeah. I mean, I remember like I don't look too much at this, and I don't really think I ever considered like buying stuff. But I mean, there's like these devices that's like, oh, this helps you put your shoes on or put your socks on. Like all of these gadgets and braces and whatnot that are kind of revolving around helping people like scale their movement because of pain. It's just like the grabbers, like you could get a grabber to pick up the golf ball because your back hurts. And it's like, I think at some point we probably just want to ideally fix, the things that are going on with our bodies. So like we don't have to act like we're, 95 years old in how old are you? Are you 30-ish?
29, but
29.
almost.
Okay.
Almost
Yeah.
30.
So yeah, I'm 28. Just like act like you're so much older in your body than you are, which also, maybe this, if you have any thoughts on this, I'm always trying to figure out how to sometimes encourage people who are older. And we actually have one of our members who's coming on the podcast on Thursday. Her name's Candy. She's from Canada. She's 56. And she was like, I'm really excited for the podcast because my goal is to share that, like, if you're older, you still, like, it doesn't have to be this thing where you can't improve. Do you have any like mindset things around that, around age? Because I think being young in pain too, sometimes it feels like a double-edged sword because you're like, well, you're too young. You shouldn't be in pain. And then people who are older, potentially considering our program or rehab process, they're like, well, of course, Alana can do it. She's 29. Like she should be healing fast, but I'm 40 or I'm 50 or I'm 60. Do you have any thoughts on how age can or cannot affect potentially your health and what you should do with it?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because I have not yet experienced being 40 or 50. And so I think I like having someone that, has experienced that and sharing their success
Mm-hmm.
is probably going to hold a lot more weight. But I do look around and see adults that are like older and I think that there is a lot of inspiration from a lot of adults that are older and still able to do a lot of the physical things that are required and
Mm-hmm.
can make a lot of progress and I want to age and also like maintain a lot of that like physical strength. I don't want to like you know get to that point where I'm like, oh, I'm just getting older and I can't do it
Right.
anymore. Like I want to hold on to like as lot of that as possible. And so yeah, I think I look a lot to like older adults that are physically active and like doing the marathon. They look at the results of people in like the age brackets that are you know, 60s or
Yeah.
70s. And I'm that's amazing. And same with like women that I golf with in my golf league. They're also a lot older and they're out there and that's really active for them. And
Mm-hmm.
like even my boyfriend's mom was like surfing in Costa Rica and like she's, an older adult. And so I think I
Right.
like look to adults that are active and set that as a goal for myself. And I think hearing the stories of them saying that like, oh, I, have overcome this or I, was able to heal myself is inspiring.
Right. Well, that's awesome. I agree with that. I think, of course, I don't know how my own body's going to feel when I'm 39 or 49 or 59 or 69 or 79 or whatever. But I do know based off of my almost 30 years of life, there have been times in my life where I have felt 1 million times shittier, in way more pain than I do now. And I've seen myself overcome that. So ideally as I age, that will be mindset as my mindset as well as just, there's always something I can do and I don't have to necessarily hold that limiting belief that like this diagnosis or this age or this circumstance is like the biggest determinant in the reason why I feel the way that I do. It can be an element of that for sure. But I think, if you want to really feel better and have all these opportunities that I think you've seen yourself have, you do need to be very cognizant about what you read, what you listen to, and how you take it in. Just like at the beginning, I think it's really awesome that you were just not really that scared about what the doctor said. Like you shouldn't run. I know it was upsetting to you, but and it probably there were a little, maybe there was some emotional baggage that came, but like certainly not as much as a lot of other people. So I think it's really cool that you were cognizant about like just kind of filtering out what messages you're taking in, and what you want to believe and how you want to shape your life. And ideally, that's why, I had you on here today as well, just to share another perspective. I just thought this was such a cool story to take your story from, okay, I joined because I had an L4, L5 and L3, L4 disc bulge, and I had an L5-S1 annular tear, I believe, and sciatica. And okay, cool, you ran a pain-free marathon, but then you dig into that it's like, well, I ran the Pain Free Marathon to raise awareness and money for Alzheimer's. And subsequently, now I'm going to go in and do that in Boston. So you're able to take your struggle and ideally kind of amplify what you've gone through and help raise awareness and strengthen positivity and health for others. So we can kind of end with that, but what is your goal? I know you kind of have a running goal for Boston, potentially time oriented, but in terms of the association with Alzheimer's or whatnot, how does that work? Are you raising money? Like how is that goal related to Alzheimer's?
Yeah. So obviously the goal is to run the marathon, but I think a bigger goal and to why I'm running with the Alzheimer's Association is because they have the ability to pour, funds into research and also, give back and support a lot of caregivers that are, going through this. They have a ton
Mm-hmm.
of resources. And so I'm do a lot and I'm involved with them and all of the fundraising that I'm doing to support their mission is also something I'm really passionate about, and it's something that's really important to me. And so
Mm-hmm.
um uh my goal with running the marathon is to raise at least $10,000 for the Alzheimer's Association. And so that getting to that would mean so much to me and so
Sure.
much to their mission and really be incredible. And then crossing that finish line will just be like icing on the cake.
There we go. Well, we'll throw this on YouTube and Spotify, and I'll get the link for you, and we can put the link in. And anyone who's listening and wants to donate to your marathon, we would be happy to help link those two. So I'll put that in there. But yeah, just really proud of you, happy for you, and keep crushing. Is there anything else you want to say before we head off?
No, I thank you for having me on. It was great getting to talk to you, and um, yeah, it was a great experience. I'm forever thankful for finding the Wealth program because it really just opened the door and made such an impact in my life to be able
Sure.
to move and feel better and healthy and take care of my mom and do things I love again. It's really
There we
important.
go. And the coolest thing is you're really just starting. I mean, the door just opened, and I'm really excited to see for you. This is a year in, like what's next year going to look like in the next year and the next year. Ideally, as cheesy as it sounds, that's why the program is called Limitless. That's what we want people to kind of start to feel like after. It's not like, oh, I need to do every single move now from Limitless for the rest of my life to stay pain free. It's like you go through the process. I think a lot of these movements are really important, but now kind of on the other side, as you figured out, you've identified some key areas that you would like to keep moving forward with the program to support your goals. And those goals are going to ebb and flow and whatnot. And you're going to have the tools ideally to just continue to move through that. So yeah, kudos to you. Awesome job. And I will be in touch. When's Boston?
April 21st.
Okay. All right. So you got
Just
about a little over 3
90,
months.
yeah, 97 days.
All right. Who's counting? Are you checking off the days on a calendar?
Yeah, I have a countdown. So
Okay.
it just a couple
Cool.
days ago it was 100. So it
All
was
right,
we're under
there
100
we
now.
go. Okay. Awesome. Well, good luck training with that. And then, yeah, we'll post that link. Alana, thank you
Awesome.
so much.
Thank you very much.
All right. Yep. All right. Bye.